Hello, I am Sensei James X, Y, and Z. This will be the first video of Sensei James Z. I wanted to talk about Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. I recently just completed the game. I did most of the available content. And I played it for roughly 30 hours on the 1.0 release build. I don't remember how many hours I played on the 0.9 build. And I know I played the demo. This game has a lot of potential, but a lot of cracks as well. So, I wanted to elaborate a little bit on what this game felt to me. I grew up playing a lot of RPGs, RTS games at a very young age, especially. Some of the very first games I played were like Warcraft and Starcraft. I played Oblivion, Skyrim, I mean, you name it, I probably played it. I'm just going to give a bunch of baseline answers, but this game, I love Arthurian legend. I love what this game was doing. I loved the writing. The weirdness is very cool. I like the world building. The tutorial island, Act 1 and Act 2 are very strong. Act 2 is a little less strong, but I get it. But Act 3, things kind of start to fall through the cracks. You notice just how empty things start to feel. There's so many interesting areas in Act 3 that just have nothing in them. There's so many things that NPCs refuse to elaborate on. There was a couple broken quests I encountered even in Act 2. And it's just, I don't know. It was frustrating. If you watched my series on the SenseiJamesY channel, I just XYZ. So it was, I don't know. You could hear me getting angry about it as the further I went on. I never felt like the game was unfair to me. I thought some moments were bullshit, like enemies healing, but I get it, it's an RPG, you know, what should I expect? Enemies should be able to heal. And I got to a point where I was practically immortal. So this game is beautiful. I don't really have a script. This is more just rambling. So if you like scripted content, I'm sorry. I want to avoid a disingenuous feel. I want to speak from the heart. I don't want to write out something I'm gonna have to read the entire time. I think this game should have taken maybe 6 months more before release. Because it's very clear they rushed to the launch. You don't even get to wield Excalibur. You don't get to wield the Shield of Palamedes. You get to wear Arthur's crown, but, I mean, you know, what's the point if you can't wield it all? Hell, I didn't even find an Arthurian cape. I don't even know what cape he uses in his cutscenes, if one at all, and I'm fairly certain he does. So, it was just frustrating, but let's go through an order. The tutorial island is concise, it's simple, gives you everything you need, you learn how to craft potions. The making your starting class, in quotes, is quite nice. You get a nice stat bump in what you're going to probably build into based off of character lore. It gives you a bit of personality. It lets you build off of what you can build. Or what you want to be in a roleplay aspect. I'm doing a second run of this, eventually, called the Druid Run, where I play as a survivor of the Charred Conclave, who is resentful and hateful towards Arthur, but maybe can learn. I don't know what ending I'll go for, but as the character, I feel angry and frustrated. I want to feel that character personality, but that run's gotta come later because I don't want to get burnt out yet. Obviously. The night run is kind of what that delved into. I was originally hard set on just doing the Arthur route, where I just revive him and that's it. But I started to listen. I started to read. I got into the lore. I started finding the tombs for this secret ending I'd vaguely heard about, but I didn't know anything about it. So I tackled that. And the deeper I got, the more I realized, sure, in blind confidence, my origins to worship Arthur were founded in the wrong place. I was hard pushing for exactly what he didn't want. I was doing exactly what he was frustrated about. People blindly worshiping and not upholding the autonomy that he had set up. And that kind of snapped me into place. I realized, oh, I get it. The best thing is exactly what the Weaver and the Mother told me. It would be to bring Arthur to merge his soul with the lands of Avalon. Because he still lives in that way, but beyond. So, but I digress. So, Tutorial Island's good. I really liked it. It's short, concise, gets you to the point. You're left with a lot of questions. They're not answered. You can actually go out of your way to escape the island, and you'll get a bad ending, which is cool. The Red Priest will literally tear Arthur's essence out of you because their experiments worked. The reading's good. I want to do a thing where I read over... I want to do shorts where I read all of the things I come across, maybe. We'll see. I don't want this to be a dedicated channel for this, but... So, but after we get to Act 1. It's a very strong start. Classic RPG setup. You wake up deserted on stranded on a beach after a boat wreck, shipwreck. There we go. And you have immediate landmarks. You're told where to go. I don't mind a compass. I don't mind a map. I like that. It's good for people that don't want the full immersion. If you want the full immersion, you could just completely ignore it, I suppose. And the Horns of the South is a nice little city. Again, it feels kind of more like a tutorial city. I will say, Avalon feels justified in how empty it is. It's cool. I understand the weirdness has driven people back so far. But I like how much is brought about. Arthur seems excited to go on this adventure with you. It's awesome. But you get to Horns of the South and it's miserable. Not in a bad way, but people are miserable. That's cool. Arthur hasn't been here in forever, and some guy shows up with the pen of a round table knight. You have to work your ass off to gain their trust, because they're not just going to trust some dude who's managed to show up and try to get Excalibur. Hell, you could skip the whole process with enough health potions to just pull out Excalibur without any help. Now, the jump will be a little confusing, I will agree, but, so, maybe I should have written a script, but I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I really, really enjoyed the 30 hours I put into this. I think it's well worth the money. But let's continue with the good. Let's do the good, the okay, and then the bad, and then the worst aspects. Act 1, or Tutorial Island, strong. Act 1, strong. The Dalriata offshoot group with one eye, that was a cool arc. I liked it. Being able to fight your way through it with whatever the knight's name was is awesome. It's a very powerful moment. I actually managed to get peace between them by, I don't remember how I actually did that. I did something in my previous, in the previous build, but previous build didn't have Act 2 or 3, so. I like the druid segment up north. The bee queen's kind of funny. This game has a nice style of humor. I don't mind the vulgarity. I think it's fine. It's not done excessively ever. I really like the weirdness. It's set up as this ominous, foreboding presence, and things hunt you. Like the Forge Dweller Knight that just comes out of fucking nowhere to kick your ass in. That's awesome. A very tough fight. Even when I was in Act 3 with a level 50 plus character, I had to really try to kill him. And I was only lucky because I kept getting good crits and healing from those crits. But the rewards you get is just so lackluster. But we'll get into all that later in the video. So, let's see. I'm gonna dip this down a little. So, I'm trying to figure out where else to start. The bounty system was fun. I'm glad that was a present thing in the first and second act, though I wish it was there in the third. The quest felt pretty good. I'm not really a big fan of having to run around and talk to every single fucking NPC to find the quests. I get it. It wants you to immerse yourself, and it's cool. I like it. But I would rather all the NPCs be shown on the map, so I don't feel like I'm having to hunt around for people to talk to for quests. I'm certain I could have reached level 60 if I really pushed a little bit harder to talk to everybody I met. Pulling out Excalibur's cool. The cutscenes are alright. I like the Arthur power of just slowing down time, though I kind of wish there was more something else in that beyond just slowing down time. It's kind of like, it's a cool power, but it's the only power, you know? I mean, what the hell else could have Arthur done, you know? He was half Forge Dweller. What was his capabilities? And then, yeah, I mean, and traversing the weirdness is a very beautiful place. I love what they did with it. I really like the art style of this game. That's a huge thing as well. The art style is beautiful. The music has been good. Most of the music you've been hearing is the non-copyright music too. It's been beautiful. I've really enjoyed playing this game. So with that, let's get to Act 2. Act 2 is also kind of strong, but it is like twice as large as Act 1, I think, in its physical size and maybe quest count. Act 2, I think, is where most of the channel was spent. Most of the series. Because I think I got to Act 2 on like episode 5. Maybe? I don't know, actually. I'd have to look back through, but I feel like I got to Act 2 pretty early, and then Act 3 was also very short, but Act 2 was cool. I like the quest there. The political drama between Camelot and Kuanacht was very nice. I liked hearing Arthur get angry about how nothing is being done, how men are living in these times of isolation and not following the autonomy he had set up, how Camelot is abusing their power and they're not, you know, they're not following what they were honoring. The the guy who is leading Kuanacht going on a mission for the Holy Grail to keep the city safe is a very powerful moment. Getting the other 3 people to join him in that quest is also great. I like the underground city of Kuanacht. The old Kuanacht is very neat. The entire area was really cool. The Stagfather Zone, the area with where the Charred Conclave happened. The swamps was also a pretty sick area, kind of spooky. A lot of the bounty targets are very cool. I found some really awesome swords in Act 2. I think Act 2 is really when the weapon variety shines. That's another weapon variety. Weapon variety is pretty cool. The magic variety looks pretty cool, but I haven't given it a proper test. But it had chain lightning, and that's kind of all I need to be happy. I like the summoning is its own skill tree. I like how summoning works by taking your max mana as well per summon. Gives a nice pseudo like gameplay style where, you know, if you're a spellcast and using summons, you have to monitor how much your summons are taking up. Which I assume works better for battle mages. Then armor variety is pretty good. It's a little frustrating getting named armor from NPCs and like specifically named NPCs. So if you kill everyone in One-Eyed's tribe, and you'll notice that there's quite a few armors that are named after the NPC, but they provide no cool benefits. They're just normal ass armor. And it's kind of it's cool. There's a lot of visually cool armors, and yeah, you could slot things into them, sure. But I mean, look at this. Arthur's armor is incredible. The helmet gives a +5 in all stats, which is a great final thing to get before you tackle the final area of the game. But I mean, again, you still don't have Excalibur, the Shield of Palamedes, so are you really, you know, why not go the full mile? So, I liked Act 2. Act 2 felt strong. The, Sagarius, the Four-Armed King arc was really nice. I really liked that castle in the darkened world. With the fungal knight and whatnot. That was awesome. But I was left wanting more because every NPC I talked to who mentioned this king made it feel like he was a four-dweller when they kept calling him the Four-Armed King. And it got to the point where I thought the four-dweller knight that kept hunting me at night was him. Because that was the only conclusion, because I didn't know about his castle. And that's awesome. That's the kind of mystery and connection I like in these games. Where you get to a point that you make a wrong assumption, but it still feels awesome regardless. But this is one of those moments where the truth is kind of lame. You get to the castle, you do this kind of annoying triple fetch quest of going through the memories of these wives or whatever, which, I mean, sure, whatever, I get it. But it's also kind of boring, unnecessary. But then you get to the boss room and you fight the queen. Okay. I mean, sure. And then you get up to the king and he's just a shell of a man. There's no ego. He's not this big-ass dude. I mean, there's a painting that made him look like this super ominous freak. And there's nothing. He's just a shell of a former self. And I guess there's poeticism in that. And I can't be completely angry at it, but it was still just a little annoying. I was hoping for, you know, a duo king-queen boss fight that I have to trudge my way through. And get some really cool stuff, but... There was the false May there, at the other shrine, at the far left side of Act 2, where you fight Percival. Now, here's a gripe I'll bring about early. Percival wields 2 great swords and has a helm that benefits dual wielding. And these 2 great swords can kind of complement each other. But you can't one-hand two-handers. There's no Titan grip in this game that you can unlock through the 2-handed skill tree. So I don't know if they were meant to be one-handers or if the devs just forgot something or they're just I don't want to say anything rude. So it's just I don't know. That really frustrated me because there's so much potential. And I feel like after some point in strength, you should be able to one-hand these blades. Like I don't know. I don't think it would be difficult to just give them one-handed animations. All you're doing is ticking like a marker. Or it's now marked as a one-handed weapon, but scales off of the 2-handed stats, you know? I digress. Whatever. Somebody may mod it or at some point if this game gets enough traction for that. But it's whatever. There's a patch coming some at some point later in the month, so we'll see. Or in the week, I think. I don't remember. There's some patch coming soon, so that's when I'll do the Druid Magic Battle Mage focused run. So with that, let's get to Act 3, which is where I think things kind of start to crumble. Well, quick aside, the Maggot questline was also kind of interesting. Actually, before we go into Act 3, Act 2 had a few moments where you got to these interesting areas and there's just nothing. Like, going out of your way to go to the vault of the men here. Like, that was awesome, but there was nothing in there. There's fuck all. Like, really? So Act 3... Oh, boy. Act 3 is when the crack started to show proper. So, Act 3 is a lot of quests for the 4 tribes of the Dalriata to get them united for the war on Camelot. And you learn in Act 3 that the Dalriata were Arthur's most trusted. And he imprisoned them up there with the threat of the giants and whatnot. And he learns this eventually once you get the crown, and he comes to regret his decision and kind of loses himself. He turns into he loses sense of the purpose and the drive. He says, "Do whatever you want, none of it matters," which is disheartening to hear after such a long journey of him wanting to restore Avalon to its former glory. It's a heart-wrenching moment. But the tribes quests were fine. The Volkners were fine, I guess. They were kind of the most subpar out of the 4. The guys with the Stone Wardens was cool, trying to get the favor of the giants to fight an immortal warrior, only to kind of not really get that much cool from him besides his axe. Again, no, his armor wasn't unique. It was just regular ass fucking armor. Like, really? There's so much armor in this game that just has potential to be interesting. Hell, even Caradoc's armor, the guy that helps you escape, has no benefits. It's just called Ranger armor. There's nothing cool about it. His sword is just a normal knight greatsword with a small crit chance on it. There's nothing interesting about it. Act 3 was rough. Act 3 is probably where I started feeling the most angry. My question about the giant bird that you see in Act 1 and 2 is left completely unanswered. I found its nest, I think, but there's no bird. Volknirs were lackluster. The Stone Wardens were interesting. The tribe in the wooded section of Act 3 was pretty fun. Fighting the Stagfather was a cool boss. Albeit, I mean, you can kind of just... Once you start having crit leech, or any leech, you can kind of just run at things and scream and hit them until they die, and you never die. But I'm not going to fault the game for that. That's just willingly using a busted setup. The sleep tribe was also very interesting, realizing that their Mather was a giant. Very fascinating concept, a giant who held resentment for Arthur. Um, Obviously, because Arthur had the Dalriata kidnap the giant's children and force the giants to sleep. So, but the final trial where you fight through. So, by the way, getting each of these tribes isn't really necessary, but it's if you want Arthur's full set, that's what you do. Um, and sorry, someone sent me some. My bad. I could have paused the recording here. Whatever. Um, the final chamber that you go through is really easy. The giants and the weird knights don't really pose much of a threat at all if you have any leech in your kit or healing, proper good healing. I mean, I'm positive I was dealing almost 4-digit damage, and I was healing like a fifth of my health on hit. Or maybe even a fourth of my health. So it wasn't too bad. But the fight to get to the giant to make the decision of what the giants were to do, it's not difficult at all. But Act 3 was rough. Lots of dialogue that just didn't happen. Lots of interesting areas with nothing in them. I felt like a lot of questions were left unanswered. But with that being said, let's get to the real fun part that I had the most, which was finding the tombs of the knights and the weaver. So, finding the tombs of the knight and having them join was awesome, because you have to get each artifact and then go back to find these tombs. So usually, by the time you got the artifact, whether it be the sword, the shield, or the crown, you were done with the act. And that would mean you could go wherever the hell you want in that act. You already could, but now you had the choice to go to these tombs hidden in kind of secret, secluded areas, sort of. And you would be able to fight your way through, or find a knight of the round table that would either join your cause. You could get the armor of, the weapons of, whatever. It's why I even have this mace. I killed Galahad for this. This thing crits on every hit, which was super valuable for my crit leech build I was building into. So that was fun. The Weaver storyline is incredible. Finding the one who made Arthur. Finding the one who made you. It's fascinating. And he realizes he's being used by the queen of the Four Dwellers or whatever was the story arc. I can't completely remember it. I'd have to go back through my footage. But it was powerful. It made you realize the Four Dwellers really aren't all that much different. Which is a funny trope, I suppose. But it also gave more credence as to why Arthur was so powerful. He was part Four Dweller, which is why Caradoc abandoned the mission in the first place. And it's also why I don't think I would ever truly side with Caradoc. Because Caradoc was ready to throw Avalon away simply because the king took the greatest risk of all for his own people. I think Caradoc is a flawed character, but in a good way. Same goes for Arthur. So, but we'll get into that when we discuss the rest. So, I think that really lines out most of the good of the game. I love the art, the music, the writing. Some of the quests were good. A lot of the landscaping in the area is very beautiful. The weapons and magic feel very diverse and fun to utilize. Crafting is... upgrading is good. Crafting is mediocre, but I'll get into that when I get into the mid and then the bad. So, would I recommend this game? Yes, I absolutely would recommend this game. But I also think the developers need to spend more time doing more things. They need to flesh out this game more. They need to do more updates. There needs to be more. Because once you get halfway through Act 2, the game speeds up and it feels like there's less and less and less to do. Which sucks. It just sucks, you know? But I'll get into what I didn't really like, or what was okay. Okay, let's get into the middle ground. Most of the game is honestly okay. Combat's fine. It never feels too engaging sometimes. It is what it is, though. I wish the magic had a little bit more going to it beyond status effects. But status effects are really damn powerful. Especially burning. Because I think burning does % health damage. I think, at least. It's damn strong, at least. Again, a lot of the quests felt kind of subpar. There were some bugs here and there. It's just... this game needs more time. That's really what I'm getting at. This game needs more time. And there's so much in the okay category that I really don't want to keep rambling for another 30 minutes. So let's move on to what was already a problem. So my biggest gripes I have, I think, is how much dialogue is missing the voice acting. How difficult it is to align with Caradoc's ideologies, because I feel he's too... I don't see a justified way you can follow him and kill Arthur and think that's going to save anything. And then when you get to the game and ask him, he says, I don't care. He blatantly states, I do not care about Avalon's future and the future of all the people here. I just, from a moral standpoint, I don't see the benefit. I do not like Caradoc as a character. I think the day-night cycle's cool. I am not a fan of some quests being tied to it, however, because I'm fairly certain I probably missed something because something wasn't explained. Or the day-night cycle was never elaborated on. I was very frustrated that it felt like I wasn't getting some quests. I was very annoyed that some quests, like a couple, weren't completing. I missed out on a bounty in Act 1, which was kind of frustrating because I think she had a weapon I would have liked early, at least. This game has so many flaws that it starts to bleed through and it gets frustrating. When you start, especially once you reach Act 3, that's when it starts to shine. There's a lot of weird terrain bumps. You feel like you have a lot of unanswered questions. A lot of the Dalriata stuff is, while interesting, just annoying to slog through. It's just quest after quest after quest. And, like, all of them are fucking miserable, except for the sleep ones, I guess. It's just... there's no autonomy in the world either. And I mean in the sense where, like, in Skyrim, Oblivion, even Morrowind, NPCs walk around and do shit. And in this game, NPCs kind of don't really have routines. They either are in bed or at work. And guards just meander about. But they don't talk to each other. There's no radiant dialogue. There's no interactions. And there's so much tied to stats and dialogue that you really don't expect. That feel like you're incentivized to grind, but then by the time you get to it, there's another method. You could just bribe, which is cool. You could just pick it and pray. I mean, the stat system's cool, but I really am not a fan of how much you're held back by your stats in terms of equipment. Especially early game. Once you get to the mid game, you've got a lot more freedom to how to build, because things start to require multiple stats, but not to the extremes. But when you're early game and you don't have a lot of levels, like, you typically would tackle Act 2 by the time you're, like, level 25 or 28. Based off my experience, at least. And I felt limited so much. Now, fortunately, the build I was doing didn't really require much, but I know once I do this mage run, it's going to be a little frustrating. There's so much potential with this game that falls flat the further you get into it. And each act is doing something experimental. Act 1 feels the strongest, with a lot of groundwork and preparation for the future, which is good. You want a strong first act. Act 2, some NPCs will have quests for you after a couple days, but there's no way of knowing that without being told beforehand, or just coming back to interacting with them again. But you don't really ever find a reason to, unless they're a shopkeep, you know? So just the opportunity doesn't really come up realistically. And then Act 3 is just, again, a billion fetch and kill quests, which, I mean, most of the game really honestly is, but it feels rushed in Act 3, and I know Act 3 is rushed, just based off of the experience I had. So, again, I would absolutely recommend this game. This game was very fun. Despite all of its flaws, it ended really strong. I think you can get really immersed and personal with the story. I think you can feel involved in how the world changes and grows, but you have to turn a bit of a blind eye from time to time, because it's still, I guess, a small studio. And there's just so much more potential. I hope they remedy these in future updates, but we'll see how things play out. So, this has been my kind of ramble rush review of this game, Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. I had a blast. I really liked it. I think if you like Skyrim or Oblivion, you will probably like this. It's very simple. The build variety is pretty good. Crafting completely sucks, though I've heard other people say it's incredibly overpowered because you can infinitely upgrade things. So, I think, at least. Which is good news for challenge runs, at least for non-magic challenge runs. So, but we'll see. We will see. I will do another series on this game once the patch drops and a lot more stuff has been fixed up. I might actually have to do a new intro video for that as well, because I have a video sitting in the backlog waiting. But we'll see. I'm SenseiJamesXYZ. This is the first video I posted on the Z channel. If you want voice acting and music, check out X. If you want video gaming, check out Y. Otherwise, stick around, look forward to the next essay I drop, or whatever I want to ramble about next time, which will probably be just personal retrospectives and reviews of games I finish on my gaming channel. So, thank you for listening this far. Sorry if I'm very all over the place and rambling. I want to do something different, but that still follows the algorithmic schedule upload. But yeah, so I don't have anything else I feel like saying. So I recommend this game. It's worth the $40. At the end of the day, it's a strong game with a lot of strong core concepts and functions and systems, but it needs more time. It needs to grow more. It needs more overall. And I hope they continue to add to it, and I hope we get more areas down the line. I would love to see what they could come up with DLC in the future, or just updates that expand some of the areas. Because it's obvious there's like another gate up north in Act 2 that would absolutely lead somewhere. So with that, I'll see you later. Farewell, and have a good night.